A city holds its breath on a bitter winter night. A nation waits in the cold, with anxious hearts and tired eyes glued to the news. And somewhere in the dark, a family holds hands, asking how it came to this. My friends, I come to you tonight not with easy answers, but with an outstretched hand. For when trouble stirs our streets and sorrow fills our homes, America has always found comfort, not in blame or noise, but in the quiet courage to face what is hard together. You have heard by now what happened on Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis. A federal immigration officer fired his weapon. A man, Alex Pretti, lost his life. An ICU nurse, a neighbor, a son. Outside, where the snow fell thick and the world seemed so cold, voices rose in protest and old fears returned. I know that some watching this feel anger, some feel confusion, many feel fear that justice is impossible in such tangled times. History has seen this before. Pain has a way of spreading quickly. Trust can seem like it disappears overnight. Picture a small city block in Minneapolis, windows frosted over, a handful of neighbors peering from their doorways as police cars flash in the blue-gray dusk. Imagine the family at their kitchen table staring at their phones, waiting for news no parent ever wishes to hear. Think of a nurse's break room after a shift, someone pausing with a mug of coffee, struggling to understand how a fellow healer could now be gone. This was not the first winter night when trouble walked our city's streets. Just a few short weeks ago, another life was lost in a similar ICE operation only a mile away. The ache is fresh, the air is tense, and so it is natural to ask, is our country coming apart? Can we ever find the truth or trust again? Let us set the table with what we know, firmly, plainly, without shouting over one another. A federal team came to enforce immigration laws. An encounter turned deadly when an officer fired, killing Alex Pretti, a man who, by all accounts, once marched for better treatment of immigrants and who cared for the sick in our hospitals. Federal agents say Alex resisted as they tried to disarm him, calling their shots defensive. They say a gun was present. Yet bystander videos, captured by brave, shivering hands up and down the block, tell a story in shadows. Alex holding a phone, not a weapon, as officers closed in before the deadly moments. The images are incomplete. The answers are not all here. Minneapolis police confirm Alex was a lawful gun owner, yet the video shown to the world does not give us every frame, every word. Now, more uniformed men, some from the Minnesota National Guard, walk those same icy sidewalks. The governor speaks of no confidence in federal officials and asks state agents to investigate. Yet the agencies clash, federal against local, both withholding pieces of the puzzle, both guarding authority like a flame in a blizzard. Picture a courthouse at sunrise, steps dusted with snow, as lawyers and mothers line up, each one hoping for a fair hearing, for sunlight on the facts. Imagine the cold quiet before dawn outside a hospital, where a shift changes and no one wants to talk above a whisper. And see, too, the protest line. Neighbors of all backgrounds bundled tight against the wind, holding signs and hope, asking for answers, not just for themselves, but for a city worn thin by too many grim headlines. Some say we must pick a side, law or protester, city or country, security or freedom, but not all news is black and white. America's strength is her unity, not her division, her patience, not her panic. We are tested now, not by whether there is pain, but by whether we meet it with justice and restraint. Consider the questions asked since that night. Was there a gun? Did officers warn or overreact? Why were state investigators kept at the curb, even with a judge's warrant? Who holds the full truth? The street where Alex Pretti fell, or the offices in Washington, or the restless crowds in the square? I say these are questions worthy of a people who care for liberty and order. Both. Let us demand every piece of evidence, body camera footage, officers' notes, the testimony of all who stood in the snow. Let us also accept what we do not yet know and resist the hunger to rush to judgment while families still grieve and neighbors still shiver in doubt. Picture a living room at midnight, A mother clutching her children, the TV flickering with the news. Her prayer is not for vengeance, but for the truth. Look also at the officers on watch, gloved hands tight around cold coffee cups, not knowing what the next hour may bring, fearing both chaos and error. And in City Hall, under tired lights, a mayor and a police chief try to walk a narrow path between outrage and calm, between duty and the ease of simple answers. In moments like these, history whispers a hard reminder. Trust is lost quickly, rebuilt only in steady, open steps. After every storm, our republic is asked to remember. True strength is found in insisting on facts, on due process, on the rights of all, not just the loudest or the most afraid. Let me say again, as I have before, the republic can be saved, but only if her people hold fast when it is hardest, and demand that sunlight reach every shadow. Imagine for a moment a school gym, quiet but filled with the soft scrape of chairs. Citizens gather, some angry, some tired, all ready to listen to what comes next. Picture a row of National Guard trucks on a city avenue at dawn. Soldiers watch, not as conquerors, but as neighbors called to ease, not inflame, the pain. And just up the road, the grocery opens to an old routine, the clerk nodding to each customer, everyone careful with words, careful with each other. Here, in these places, the real battle is not fought with arms, but with patience. It is in these schools, streets, and homes that the habits of a free people are built or undone. Now, some will say, action now. They will urge quick violence, quick judgment, quick answers. But history has taught us the cost when a nation trades patience for passion, when the crowd's cry drowns out the quiet voice of reason. In our darkest hours, some have rushed to judge, acting before the facts were laid bare, before the wounds of the grieving could even breathe. Think of a small-town diner at breakfast, sunlight flooding in, a faded flag above the counter, old friends speaking in low tones about what's right and what's fair. Here, not everyone agrees, but each waits for the truth, knowing that justice never comes from haste. Every generation faces its storm. Every generation must choose. Will we be driven by fear, or will we hold steady, honor due process, and trust that a democracy built on laws can find its way through confusion? There is real pain now in Minneapolis, and it is felt in every corner of the country where a mother, a fellow nurse, a friend wonders if justice is possible or if trust is gone for good. Yet I say, trust can grow again if we plant it in open government, honest inquiry, and the slow work of seeing every citizen as our neighbor. Picture the courthouse once more, noon sun bright on its steps. Families, activists, reporters, officials, all assembled. Few speak, but all wait for the facts with hope and worry mingled in their eyes. Now, no one in this nation should expect perfection, not from our officers, not from our laws, not from those who lead, but all should expect accountability, openness, a commitment that never blames first, but seeks answers, even when those answers are slow to come. Let us not pretend that order and compassion are enemies. They have walked hand in hand at America's best moments. Law protects us, but compassion binds us together. If we give up either, we give up more than we know. This is not just about one shooting on a snowy block. This is the test our republic faces every generation. Will we turn on each other when fear is high, or turn toward each other with grit and trust, step by steady step? I ask you to look for the helpers, the nurse who finishes her shift and volunteers at the protest medic tent, the officer who kneels with a grieving father and listens, not just to defend himself, but to understand. These quiet acts do not make the headlines, but they are the glue of a free people. We must demand the body cameras, the full story, the fair hearing, but we must also reject the easy lies that travel faster than truth. We must mourn every needless loss, but not use a neighbor's pain to fuel more division. Imagine an evening town hall, folding chairs in neat rows, the hush of the crowd as a city councilor stands to promise, "We will find the answers. but we will not abandon each other while we wait. That is the promise a republic makes to her people. It is a promise you and I must keep, not with slogans or anger, but with the quiet courage to look our problems squarely and to trust that the tools of democracy can still work even when the night feels long. Not all news is black and white. Not every story has only villains and heroes. When we see muddle and hurt, let us answer not with panic, but with patience, a patience that demands much, but always gives more. We will not fix our divisions in a week. We may not answer every question to every citizen's satisfaction, but we can and must insist that even in doubt, we act as citizens worthy of a republic. And so, tonight, as the winter lingers and Minneapolis holds its breath, I ask you to remember, our strength is not in the shouting, but in the listening, not in picking sides, but in insisting every side be heard, every fact found, every family given its due. Picture the sunrise tomorrow, light touching empty streets, soft gold against old bricks, as one city and then another and another wakes up and chooses to try again. For America's strength is her unity. She is at her best when her people, guarded by law and guided by conscience, answer pain with resolve, fear with neighborliness, division with the hard work of healing. Let us be grateful for the peacemakers, for the journalists who sift rumor from news, the clergy who open their doors, the neighbors who check on each other without being asked. And let us remember that civic life is built on the habits of 1,000 ordinary folks. Quiet, steady, faithful to the truth, unwilling to be driven by the loudest or the angriest voice in the room. In the end, the republic can be saved, but only if we, its people, remember that truth and trust are built, not found, that comfort cannot come from anger and peace not from panic, that a democracy endures not because it suffocates conflict, but because it refuses to let conflict swallow its hope. So, as you watch the news, as you talk with neighbors, as you wrestle with your own fears, I ask only this: will you meet these troubled days with the calm spirit of citizenship, with the patience to ask, the steadiness to wait, the courage to hope? What kind of republic do we want to pass on to our children? That is the question this winter puts to all of us. And it is a question worth answering together.